Climate change, driven by human activities, amplifies extreme weather events globally. This includes intensified floods and hurricanes due to increased moisture and warmer ocean temperatures, respectively. Australia faces exacerbated wildfires amid hotter and drier conditions, devastating ecosystems and communities. Similarly, unexpected events like floods in Dubai underscore the unpredictability of changing precipitation patterns. Urgent global action is imperative to mitigate climate change's impacts and protect vulnerable regions from its consequences. If we exceed 2 degrees Celsius in average global temperatures, we can still live, but people will suffer as crops will fail, houses and businesses will be destroyed. There will be mass migration, food shortages, starvation and social unrest. The Earth has been warmer during the dinosaur age, and some people state that climate change does not mean humanity will not exist. This is true, but civilization and the way we currently live will be impacted. For example, if all the ice caps melt, the rise in seawater will reach the elbow of the Statue of Liberty in the USA. It won't matter how much money you have or your social status. Can't drive a Porsche, Ferrari underwater. The cost of inaction in terms of economic loss is far greater than taking action. Did you know carbon dioxide or CO2 remains in the atmosphere for between 150 to 200 years? This means that the climate change problems we cause will affect you, your children, your grandchildren and great-grandchildren and possibly great-great-grandchildren. So why can't we simply stop climate change? What's the big deal? Simply put, it's progress in economics. The world and civilization is based on economics. When people do not have food and water security, climate change is not a priority. In Western countries, voters are concerned about jobs, security and education more than a potential disaster 20 to 30 years away. It's simple, today's problems are more pressing than tomorrow's worries. That is human nature. The problem is that climate change will affect billions of people and needs addressing now to prevent future impact. There are solutions, of course. Renewable energy does not emit CO2, and therefore we are slowly moving to emit less CO2 from our energy sources. The net zero pledges of governments around the world are good pledges, but are too slow and too late. The German government watered down the pledges to assist their car industry. The UK government watered down its pledges to assist its economy, and the US, which is the world's highest emitter per GDP, is simply not engaged. It is therefore up to science and private companies to provide solutions. Carbon capture systems have had billions invested in their technology, but all are still inefficient and highly costly. This is because CO2 is only 0.04% of the atmosphere. To remove 1 kilogram of CO2, 2,500 meter cube of air has to be processed. This much air has to be pulled from the air and processed to remove the carbon dioxide. This normally requires big fans which create low pressure and pull in air from which CO2 is removed by various means. This costs money and is hugely expensive to set up. Every year we emit over 240 trillion kilograms of CO2 into the atmosphere. We need to pull in 2,500 by 240 trillion cubic meters of air to remove this much CO2. This is a lot of fans and energy. REVFRACC, which stands for Reverse Fractionating Carbon Capture, solves many of the problems with current carbon capture systems, and it uses the thermal energy within air to power the system, and it uses no fans. It is simple, low cost and effective. Air is a mixture. Oil is a mixture of hydrocarbons, and the fuel in your car is distilled from oil via fractionation. Each hydrocarbon in oil boils off at different temperatures and is collected. If we cool air sufficiently, components of air will condense out at different temperatures. Carbon dioxide, due to its concentration in air, will condense out at -141 degrees Celsius. Methane, oxygen, argon, nitrogen all condense out at differing temperatures. All pollutants, whether they are gases or particulates, require energy to escape into the atmosphere. Take out their thermal and kinetic energy and the pollutant does not escape into the atmosphere and is easy to capture and process. Society ignores that we create pollutants which cause cancer and ill health. Breath in these pollutants in the name of progress and then spend billions on treating ill health caused by pollution. Seems silly, don't you think? How does it all work? Quite simple really. Cool air using liquid nitrogen. Air contracts in volume and in doing so pulls in more air. The air is cooled to -198 degrees Celsius using liquid nitrogen, and the components of air condense out. At -198 degrees Celsius, 99% of the constituents of air has been taken out. To put this in context, a 2 liters bottle of soda is shrunk to 20 milliliters. All that space left behind is filled up with more air which is pulled into the towers. No fan required. Cryogenic cooling is not new, so what's the big deal? This process is energy intensive. Traditional approaches are energy inefficient, as all the energy required to cool air is normally rejected. Simply thrown out. REVFRACC takes the thermal energy in air, both the its specific heat and the latent heat given off in condensation. It does not reject it, but instead turns the energy into electricity via its patented turbine called cyclopt. Air has a lot of energy in it surprisingly, and within cyclopt it creates a lot of pressure to turn a turbine. So thermal energy is converted to work. Cyclopt is a patented nitrogen-powered electricity turbine. More information on Cyclopt can be obtained from Atmos Future via the link at the end of this video. The nitrogen which cools the air is used to power Cyclopt. It converts the energy it absorbed from the air into electricity via a turbine. This in turn cools the nitrogen gas. This gas is passed into a novel patented vector-cancelling condenser. This new continuous flow condenser does not require any additional work or energy added via a mechanical compressor unit. The gas pressure is directed towards itself and this causes condensation. The heat released from condensation is recovered via a nitrogen cooling loop and this is passed into Cyclopt to convert heat to electricity. The amount of energy generated is far greater than the input energy to run the system. Small towers all act as vacuums over a large area and this large area or low pressure pulls in millions of cubic meters of air per year. The constituents of air that is condensed is sold to industry to create a true circular economy. CO2 is sold to the foods and drinks industry which is currently being supplied by carbon dioxide made as a byproduct of fertilizer production. Can you imagine, we have an excess of CO2 and yet we actually have an industry dedicated to make more for business. Methane and argon are sold as they are in small atmospheric concentrations. Oxygen and nitrogen have high volumes and far more than can be sold. Excess oxygen and nitrogen will be used to rapidly cool more air without using a closed-loop heat exchange cycle. This means condensed oxygen and nitrogen will be used to cool incoming air and the energy in this gas will be passed into Cyclopt to create electricity and it will then be released as cold air into the atmosphere, albeit without the argon, methane and CO2 or pollutants. Finally, some of the excess nitrogen and oxygen will be passed into a patented thermal energy concentrator which will absorb solar heat and vaporize the liquid oxygen and nitrogen, which will then be passed into Cyclopt to create renewable electricity. All in all, cheap, simple, net energy creating and a full circular economy. REVFRACC is the all-in-one solution for carbon capture straddling CCUS and DAC systems. REVFRACC is a de facto atmospheric scrubber. It works, it offers an economical solution and it does not require massive changes to our way of life.